Welcome to Burned and Better. I'm your host, Dr. Denisa Weber, a seven-figure CEO, speaker, mother, entrepreneur, and chiropractor. Over the last 15 years, I've faced the highest highs and the lowest lows of entrepreneurship, motherhood, and leadership. I've burned more times than I can count, but every time I've found a way through and come out better. This isn't about polished highlight reels. It's about the real, unfiltered side of leading, the kind of conversations usually kept behind closed doors. Here, I share my own stories and sit down with leaders who've stumbled, recalibrated, and built something worth leading. So if you've ever felt the weight of success or wonder what it looks like to fall hard but rise stronger, you're in the right place. Let's normalize the messy middle of leadership and step into the episode. Hey guys, and welcome to another week of Burned and Better. I usually am not video recording my solo episodes, but here I am, very freshly and swollen from basically crying my eyes out. One of our practice members has passed away this past weekend, and it was tragic. It was absolutely tragic. We've had a lot of tragedy in our community in the last couple months, and we've had my son had there's six girls that passed away in his school in the floods, and two of which were in his specific elementary. And that was, it's still just haunting, and how that's impacted even in our practice, like some of the people that we serve, and it's just deeply impacted our community. And then we have this, and the pastor who was officiating or was for the service, he shared something that I thought was like, I feel like this needs to be said. I feel like it needs to be said in these, like, even in a podcast realm and within like our profession or industry, or even in cross industries, is just gets me choked up talking about it or thinking about it. Is so much of what we do on this thing, so much of what we do here and what we're looking at and scrolling in social media and looking at what everyone's doing, who's liking what, who's following what, how many likes did this get, how many follows did this get, how much whatever. And the inputs that are consistently coming in all the time, whether we're having to use social for work or whether we're having to, we're doing it just to, numb out, we're bored. It's like we go to this scroll mode, right? And what he had to say was so good, but it was like this precious soul took her own life. And beautiful. She's just stunning, inside and out. And believing the voices, what he was saying was like, you shouldn't be believing the voices that say who you are, like what you believe about yourself, but also what others say who you are. You should be believing what God says about you. And the voices we are hoping to train inside your mind is what God says about you. Because sometimes the voices that tell us who we are and what other people's opinions are, like that's not who we are. And when we get lost in anything other than what God says about us, specifically what he says about us, nothing good can come from that. Nothing good can come from believing something that is against what God says about you. And faith is a very important part of who I am. Faith is a huge part of who I am and where I come from. And while this isn't like a faith-based podcast, this is most definitely talking into the realm of like serving people when they're hurting. Also just reminding people where they came from, like who made you, all these things. Like it's when we're working with people, we get opportunities to speak into people's lives. And then also taking care of what is speaking into our lives. What are we selecting to, whether it's through here or reading or listening to or any of that, like what are we selectively putting into our minds? Because the more that is the consumption, whatever we are consuming has more accessibility to the fertility and the soil that is in our brains. And it is on us to be very selective as to be guards of that, because what comes in here can also implant into our hearts. And when things start injuring our heart over time, this is what can just lead to not good things. And I know I'm coming from a tender place today, But as leaders serving people, wherever you are serving, it's important for us to be very selective and remember also where we came from and whose we are, and also isolate thought processes that contradict what we know to be true. And hopefully start selecting those things that we know that to be true to be the thoughts that we actually put into our minds and say repetitively, write out, and constantly consume, knowing that that can anchor in and then pour into our hearts. So I know this is a short one, but I feel like it was needed, necessary, scratched everything else. But this was just something I felt like needed to be said because there's so many hurting people. Like everyone is hurting to some degree across the spectrum. And whether it is a hurt moment or a hurt season or a severe impact and tragedy, it's so important. It's so important to know where, like, to speak into someone's life, to be utilized as a vessel, but I can't be utilized as a vessel if I believe wrong things about myself. I mean, before, like, could suck as a leader for a long period of time, but by the grace of the God that he is able to say, like, hey, well, why don't we refine that? Well, like, let's leverage that story. Let's make that, give me the glory in that. And there is so much beauty from the ashes. And while I hate this is the outcome for this beautiful soul, I think what he had to say today was so great in going, you've got to believe whose you are. What does he say about you? And then write that out and compare it to what are the things that I'm consistently saying about myself, or that maybe I've believed about what other people have said about me, and put them side by side and go, they contradict each other. What deserves to stay and what deserves to go? And that exercise alone heals your heart. And so I encourage you to do that. And while I'm sorry that this isn't like jovial and uplifting and whatever, it's just from a tender place and a broken place. And this is just live off the cuff. So we will resume normal, whatever, but maybe this is normal. I don't know. But thanks for being with me this week. And I encourage you to execute that exercise so that you can have more fruitful thoughts come into your mind, enrich the soil that really speaks to the soul and the spirit. Guard your hearts, guys, and guard the hearts of those that you have been steward to lead. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Burned and Better. Follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, tap 5 stars or write us a quick review. That's how this work is going to grow. I'd love to hear what stood out for you in this conversation. Share this episode, tag me at Southern_Cairo on Instagram, and pass it on to someone who needs it today.